Commission meeting, Wednesday, February 12th, 2025. We will start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you all please rise and recite the Pledge of Allegiance with me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next on the agenda is our roll call. Commissioner Hammer?
Here.
Commissioner Proctor?
Here.
Commissioner Sloan?
Here.
Commissioner Hamilton?
Here.
Commissioner Gossett?
Here.
Commissioner Anderson?
Here.
I am Commissioner Robinson. I too am here. We also recognize Councilmember Hanson and Mr. Agard, Mr. Page, Ms. Fairborn, and Mr. Baker. We excuse Commissioners Dunn and Jensen and Councilmember Manzione. Excuse me. Next on the agenda, a public hearing and decision on a conditional use permit request by Helen Curti to permit the use of a dwelling multifamily on 0.14 acres at 389 East Vine Street. Mr. Agard.
Thank you, Commissioners. First of all, I'd like to clarify that the property in question is highlighted in red on the aerial photograph, and you'll note that it does not front onto Vine Street. However, this property was at one time under the ownership of the property that does front on Vine Street, and therefore had the same address. So the applicant used the address that the county has. When the plat is eventually recorded, the addresses will be changed to front onto 4th Street. So just a clarification there. Property is located adjacent to 4th Street, just north of Vine Street in the Broadway area. The property does bear the mixed-use Broadway zone with some R17 to the east and to the south. The property is surrounded on the south and the west by single-family residential. There is a light commercial storage-type property located to the north. This is an application to authorize the use of a multifamily dwelling on the property. This is a conditional use permit and is not a site plan application. You probably looked at the agenda. The site plan for this will follow later on in the meeting where we can get into more details about the project itself. Just for your reference, this is a proposal for a 3-unit townhome. The units are laid out pretty much north to south with some access onto 4th Street. There isn't a whole lot more that can be done with the property. And then this is the proposed building, basically just a townhome. That's about all I have to say with this. The purpose of the conditional use permit is to identify any potential impacts, detrimental impacts caused by this property, and try to resolve those through conditions. So with that, I will turn it back over to the Planning Commission. Just to say quickly, though, that staff is recommending approval with the basic conditions listed in your staff report. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Thank you, Mr. Agard. Any questions, concerns, comments for staff from the Commission?
Oh, excuse me, Chairman. I did receive one notice or one comment in the public regarding the public hearing. It was from Holly Silva. I believe the Planning Commission did receive that as well. It was sent to your emails. Ms. Silva did express some concern about rapid growth in the city and making sure that we have sufficient infrastructure to accommodate the growth and the roads and so forth. If you like, if you did not receive this in your email, we do have this in paper form. You're more than welcome to read it if you'd like to.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. Seeing no comments from the Commission, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing. If you're a member of the public and would like to come forward and address this item, now is the time to do so. I don't know if the applicant's here or not, but if they are and they want to say anything, we'll wait till after the public hearing's closed and then give you a chance to speak. Is that okay? Seeing no one but the applicant rush the podium, we will go ahead and close the public hearing. If you would like to come forward and say anything, you're more than welcome to now. If you want to stay silent, you have that right as well. Okay, public hearing is now closed. We'll bring that back to the Commission for a motion.
Chairman, I move we approve the conditional use permit request by Helen Curti to authorize the use of a dwelling multifamily to occur on the property located at 389 East Vine Street, application number 2024021, based on the findings and subject to the conditions listed in the staff report dated February 6th, 2025.
There's a motion to approve by Commissioner Hammer. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Commissioner Anderson. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, we'll take it to a vote. Commissioner Hammer?
Aye.
Commissioner Proctor?
Aye.
Commissioner Sloan?
Aye.
Commissioner Hamilton?
Aye.
Commissioner Gossett?
Aye.
Commissioner Anderson?
Aye.
The chair also votes aye. That is approved 7-0. Next on the agenda, public hearing and decision. No, yes, that's right. Public hearing and decision on a conditional use permit request by David and Kelly Hamilton to permit an accessory structure that exceeds 15 feet in height at 777 West Vine. Mr. Page.
Thank you, Chair. Here's an aerial view with the zoning. It's located in the RR1 zone. The top of the screen's to the east, so it's on Vine Street, 777 West Vine Street. The acreage is 2. This is a screen of the properties that were notified for this public hearing. And this is the site plan that was provided by the applicant with the proposed location of the storage building. Just the storage building alone exceeds the 8% lot coverage maximum. With the storage building, it's at 8.6% of the lot coverage. Here's an aerial view showing the approximate location of the 7,500 square foot storage building, along with the approximate square footages of adjacent buildings. And then on the site itself, there's a couple of accessory structures that are not part of the 8.6% lot coverage. Here's the approximate height that's measured to the midpoint of the roof of the proposed building is 18 feet 10 and a half inches. The applicant hasn't provided any more details as far as color or materials. We have received 2 letters from residents. I believe one was already forwarded to you by Josh and Lisa Draper. You should have received that. Then we just recently received a letter from Tim and Melissa Wilson that are also concerned about the views and the neighborhood character, the property values, the impact on their property values. So they just respectfully urge that the Planning Commission give careful consideration to preventing any obstruction of our view, ensuring they remain intact for current and future generations to enjoy. So staff's recommendation is for the Planning Commission to kind of decide what the neighborhood character is, if this proposed building is just too big, too tall, for the area, or if you find it acceptable for the neighborhood. Some of the concerns you maybe want to try to mitigate would be sounds or noise or smells or any other potential negative impact that you could perceive that would occur with this proposed building. And that's my presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Page. Any questions for staff on this item?
Do we know what the intended use of this building is?
My understanding is to store some vehicles.
Okay.
Is the applicant here this evening?
He is.
He is? Okay, we'll give him time after the public hearing, and if we have questions for him, Kelly, that might be a good time to ask that as well. Any other questions for Mr. Page or Mr. Agard? If not, this item requires a public hearing. Thank you, Kent. We'll go ahead and open the public hearing. If there's anyone that is here that would like to speak to this agenda item, now is your time to come forward. Seeing no one come forward, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. And Mr. Hamilton, is there anything that you'd like to say? Or this is your chance to speak now. If you would, is the paper up here? If you just write your name and information on that, please.
Yeah, this building is, we bought this 2 acres on Vine Street, and this building will be at the back of my 2-acre lot. I have collector cars and a toy hauler that I would like to have inside. The one neighbor that said it was going to be a shop, I have a large shop where I run a business in the industrial park. It's not a shop. I just need a building to store my vehicles and keep them out of the weather. They're valuable. I had them for a long time, and it'll be a very good-looking building, and it won't interfere with anybody's view from around there. It's right next to a barn, calving sheds, haystacks, and more calving sheds. So that's about all I have to say.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hamilton. Any questions from the commission for him? If not, we'll bring this item back to the commission for any further discussion, or I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion.
Commissioner Proctor.
I move we approve the CPU request for David and Kelly C. Hamilton to authorize 8.6 lot coverage of accessory structures and height of 19 feet maximum for proposed storage building at 77 West Vine Street, application number 2025007, based on findings in the report.
Okay, there's a motion to approve from Commissioner Proctor. Is there a second?
Mr. Chairman, I'll second it. I had a question, but we're past that, so.
So you're seconding it, Commissioner Sloan? Okay, there's a motion and a second. Is there discussion on the motion? If not, we'll take it to a vote. Commissioner Hammer.
Before we vote, Chris, did you want to say anything or no?
I had my
Okay.
chance.
Aye.
Commissioner Proctor.
Aye.
Commissioner Sloan.
Aye.
Commissioner Hamilton.
Aye.
Commissioner Gossett.
Aye.
Commissioner Anderson.
Aye.
The chair also votes aye. That passes 7-0. Next on the agenda, public hearing and decision on a conditional use permit to consider an accessory outdoor sales and display incidental to an allowed use in the GC zoning district located in front of the Cow Ranch at 832 North Main Street. Mr. Page.
Again, this is a conditional use permit for an accessory outdoor structure for an allowed use. This is in front of the Cow Ranch store. You probably have seen it as you've driven by. They have the coffee shop that's closer to Main Street, and then a little behind it is proposed. Well, it's a current building right now. It's about 8 feet by 14 feet for use for storage. Staff has looked at it and doesn't see any potential problems that for any conditions that would need to be made for this application. So staff recommends approval.
Okay, thank you. Kent, any questions, concerns for staff on this agenda item from the commission? Seeing none, this item also requires a public hearing. We will open up the public hearing. If there's anyone that wants to come forward and address this agenda item, now is the time. And just like that, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing.
You're killing it, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah. Is the applicant here and wants to speak or say anything? Okay. Bring this back to the commission for any further discussion or a motion.
Chairman, I have some comments.
Shoot. Go ahead, Commissioner Hammer, sorry.
Today I drove down Main Street for the sole purpose of just looking at other businesses to see if they had any accessory buildings next to them or in parking lots, and I didn't see any. And I think the reason I didn't see any is because the intent of parking lots is for parking of vehicles and cars. And I have some concerns, safety concerns about where this accessory building exists right now in the middle of a parking lot. I worry it's confusing to people, to drivers especially, and when maybe the employees are expected to cross their 2 lanes of traffic to go over to this accessory building to get supplies to take back to their building. I just worry about their safety, and I have concerns about that. And also, when I drove by this evening, there was no lighting, and it was dark, and no reflective surfaces at all. And I also worry about the aesthetics. It doesn't seem to really fit into what's going on there in the parking lot, or what we really want in the city. I worry about, I have concerns about approving this conditional use permit in this parking lot, for this accessory building, and then further down the road, having to approve other accessory buildings and other parking lots and what that might look like for our city. Although I'm super excited that this business is growing and thriving and they need to expand, this location in the parking lot is not the best fit. There is sufficient space for this shed on the south side of the existing building that won't disrupt current parking spots, and it addresses those concerns I have for safety and aesthetics. So, that's all.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Hammer. I think she's brought up some pretty good concerns that we definitely have the authority to discuss and to place conditions and try to mitigate those concerns. Any further discussion from the commission? Commissioner Stone.
In light of Commissioner Hammer's comments, do we want to perhaps re-invite the applicant to come up and see if he wants to address some of those?
That's perfectly acceptable. Would you like to do that? And can you pronounce your last name for me so I don't butcher it? Panunzio. Panunzio. Thank you, Mr. Panunzio.
Name. How hard?
Okay, so as far as the safety concern, where this building is located is the same spot where the employees park. They have to cross the same distance to the shop as they would into there. And it wouldn't be a regular all-day occurrence where they're going back and forth. This is just storage of supplies that they need, so that usually happens at the end of the day or in between shifts. So there's not a whole lot of foot traffic back and forth. We do have signage to put on the side for reflective, and we even discussed maybe putting some bollards there just to kind of make the building more visible. As far as the aesthetic, we had it built by the same company that built the shop. It looks exactly like the shop. So from Main Street, you really couldn't tell which one was the coffee shop and which one was the storage shop. And we made sure we looked at the city code for coloring, and I know it's part of the gateway or right near the gateway into the city, so we tried to make the colors very similar to what the city code has in it. Anything that I missed?
Lighting.
Lighting.
We can certainly address that of what you guys would like to see.
What
Lighting for what
lighting's on the
purpose? Because
shop?
the parking lot is lit. You know, I mean, that's just as if your car or anything else was there. I'm not sure what we would want to illuminate at that point, but we're open to address that if there's something specific you guys would like lighted besides the way the parking lot meets the code for lighting requirements. So,
Question now, the shop.
Yeah, is the current
lit?
shop lit now?
oh yeah, we have LED lights and everything. The front of the building has a big lighted sign on it for the coffee shop. Open signs on both sides.
And I didn't drive by it in the evening. Does that light go on to where the shed will be?
No,
Or is it shadowed?
I did not see that tonight when I drove by.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not on this storage shed. You know, it's not on that where this storage building is, but it's the main coffee shop itself is illuminated. I'm not sure what lighting on the building would do, what to accomplish, but I mean, if there's something that you guys think that would be needed for, it's something we might be able to accommodate.
Is there power to the shed now?
No.
I know that we could stipulate something when the parking lot's lit up as it's supposed to according to code. I mean, it's not a place of business, so.
Yeah, we did contact the city before. We thought that we had included this in our original conditional use permit, and we contacted the city before. Like you said, the building is there currently. We'd contacted the building department, asked them what we needed, building permit-wise. They said we were good, we didn't need any building permit. We explained, they said as long as we have permission from Cal Ranch and it's in our leased property that we were okay as it sits. So we just didn't realize that it wasn't in our original conditional use permit, which brings us here.
Mr. Panunzio, did you look at putting it next to your building to make your building more visible. It would make your building larger, and that would maybe attract more traffic to have it on the south side of your building versus in the parking lot.
Yeah, we did explore that option. The one issue that we had even originally with the coffee shop building itself was the setback from Main Street. And I know it was a big issue kind of before working through that. And so we were afraid that if we put it on the south side in the I guess the grass directly adjacent to the building, that we would, kind of face those problems again with the setback. As well as we use that as kind of the employees look that way to see the cars lining up, and that kind of stuff would kind of obstruct going in and out of the shop and being able to see that direction. And I think anything to the north is too close to that driveway. This was our best option that we could see.
Any other questions for Mr. Panunzio? Thank you. Okay, bring this back to the commission. If we've got some items that we think we need to be mitigated, then that certainly can be included in any sort of motion that's made. But we know with conditional use permits, we're required to approve them with the mitigations in place for those items.
Agreed, and we need to have evidence in the record that would support a finding that the conditions would mitigate an anticipated detrimental effect.
Mr. Hammer, what do you think?
Well, I guess we have to try to figure out some things. I think, with the addition of bollards, does that create even more of a concern? And that extends it out even more. I'm not sure that's the answer. For sure, some reflection going across there or lighting of some sort. I don't know.
And the purpose of the bollards would be to protect the structure from cars in the lane? Or?
Yeah, I guess. On private parking lots like that, any accidents you just have to handle it at the parking lot, so.
Right.
I don't know, it's not very lit.
Be reflective bollards would
No,
help.
and I will go along with you on that, because having experience being a manager in that complex, even though the parking lot is lit, it's a very dark parking lot.
Yeah.
And if one of those lights goes out, it becomes even more dark. So
I think one of the problems I have is that it's an existing building that wasn't approved, and it would have been easy to just not approve where it is and move it somewhere else. That would be ideal. In a pickle. I don't know how to mitigate it.
Well, I think you have identified a reasonably anticipated detrimental effect of potential danger of vehicles at night not seeing the building and hitting it. I think you've identified a reasonable condition that would mitigate it with reflective materials on the building itself, or reflective bollards placed close to the building. You wouldn't want them in the travelway. But those things would seem to be reasonable.
Mr. Sloan, do you have a comment?
Well, I'm trying to wordsmith something in my mind, which is the worst thing anybody can have to deal with. I don't think, and Commissioner Hammer can correct me if I'm wrong, your initial issue was with safety of people walking across, and I'm not sure how we would mitigate that, but I think we can mitigate the issues with visibility in the evenings with reflective materials, perhaps tape up all four corners, reflective material up all four corners of it. Anybody that's in there in the dark theoretically is going to have their headlights on. It should bounce pretty nicely. If they don't, then it doesn't matter what we do, and that's beyond our purview. Are you ready for a motion, I'm assuming?
I am ready. If there's no further discussion, we can discuss the motion if need be afterwards, but
Well, I'm going to move we approve the CUP amendment request by Guy Panunzio to place an 8-foot by 14-foot storage building in the location specified in the site plan at 832 North Main Street, application number 2025012, based on the staff recommendations that are noted, with the addition that the building add reflective material, let's call it 4 feet up from the ground on all 4 corners. Does that make enough sense, Roger? Is that descriptive enough, or do you want, I'm not gonna say what kind of material, but what I'm looking for is a wrap. All 4 corners to have a reflective wrap on both sides. Are you following me? Okay.
I just don't know if you want to tie yourself to an exact height, or if you want to say
I thought you
approximately.
liked that part. I did that just for you. That wasn't even real.
Well, you got my attention.
Well, then
If it's
I've done my
4 foot
job.
1 inch, then it's no good, but
Take it off.
How about no less than 4 feet? My worry is that anything less than that is going to be out of sight on anybody's car except mine.
yeah, you could do a range, 3
Yep.
to 5 or anything.
Well, I'm not doing that now. You said it. No less than 3 feet off the ground.
I'll second that.
okay, there's a motion by Commissioner Sloan, seconded by Commissioner Hamilton. Any discussion on the motion? If not, we'll take this to a vote. Commissioner Hammer?
Aye.
Commissioner Proctor?
Aye.
Commissioner Sloan?
Aye.
Commissioner Hamilton?
Aye.
Commissioner Gossett?
Aye.
Commissioner Anderson?
Aye.
Chair also votes aye. That conditional use permit is approved 7-0 with the conditions indicated. Thank you.
I'd like to compliment the commission for doing exactly what state law requires you to do. So,
That was-
well done.
Yay, yay us.
We should adjourn.
Yeah, we end on a high note, but no. Next on the agenda, public hearing and recommendation to consider a zoning map amendment request by Brandon and Jenny Nay for the zoning approximately 6.4 acres located at 1405 North Conifer Street from the RR5 zoning district to RR1 zoning district. Mr. Page.
Thank you. Just a clarification, the actual zoning is 19.38. And here is the map with the neighbors that were notified. And this is the general plans land use map showing that this area is anticipated to be medium density residential, which is zones R17, R18, and R110. The current zoning of the property is RR5, and the surrounding properties that are in the city are R18. And then you can see on the other sides it's county zoning, which is RR5. Just looking at the overall Tooele City zoning, I thought it was kind of interesting to see where our current RR5s and RR1s are located. I noted that all of the current zoning that's RR5 and RR1 is slated by the general plan to be medium density residential, except for this fairly large area on the west side of town, which is slated to continue to be rural residential. And on this west side of town, there's a lot of vacant property. So the question is, do we need more RR1? Well, we have quite a bit available in this part of the city for consideration. The recommendation is that we just held a public hearing tonight. We can't consider a rezone request before we consider amendment, a proposed amendment to the general plan's land use map. So with that, Chair, that's my presentation. I'd be glad to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Page. My only question is that probably for you, Roger, with us not being able to consider it, do we just hold a public hearing and then not discuss anything further? Or do we need to move the table, the item after the public hearing? What's the most proper way to do it to comply with the law?
I think all three.
Oh,
You've advertised the public hearing. You've advertised the public hearing as a courtesy of the public who may have come. I suggest letting them tell you how they feel. It's on the agenda, so you're within your rights to discuss it. And yes, table a vote to a future meeting.
Okay, yay. Yes, unfinished business. All right, thank you, Mr. Page, thank you, Mr. Baker. Let's go ahead and open the public hearing to consider this zoning map amendment. If there's anyone here that wants to come forward and address this agenda item, may now do so. Okay.
You ain't ever heard a thing like this.
Could I get you to state your name and then sign the paper as well?
My name's Doris Kupfer.
Okay.
I live on the corner of 1350 North and Drew Bay Road. My biggest thing is that I just want it to be R5 instead of R1, but I'd like to tell a little story about why.
Is your story long, Mrs. Cupford? Is your story long?
Yeah, it's a little bit, I'll
Okay.
go as quick as I can.
Okay, I just don't want to
I'm
take
from
away,
back east.
I don't want to take away time from everybody else, so that's
Okay.
fine, but.
So I live within the closest range of the area being considered R1 instead of R5. There was originally intended at that area was R5. Anyone who has spent the better part of their lives here in Tooele considers me a newbie. I was accepted into the community to build on the corner of Drew Bay Road and Arrow Street 26 years ago. Now the newbies will be coming, and we truly wish all of them the best, whoever comes. We welcome them to the water restrictions that we have been put on. We welcome them to the high voltage that is right there. That's quite dangerous. I had cancer for a year and a half. I can barely walk or talk, but I'm here. We welcome their family, their pets. We already have enough dogs in the neighborhood barking. We could probably do R5 just for a few less dogs maybe, or maybe they'll have 10 each. We asked that the R5 that was intended for this location, that it be highly and fully considered. And when they start digging up, I hope that the consideration of the gas line, the big gas line that's down Drew Bay Road, I'm praying that that is considered as the construction's going on. We pray that when we moved here and there was a big cow in our yard and we didn't know what to do with them, we called the police. They didn't know almost till last month if it's a city thing or a county thing. Hopefully they figure that out because it'll be behind our house. And then they'll have to figure out if it's a city or a county response because we couldn't get people to come. We hope they like the skunks. We hope they like the ferret cats. We hope they like all the deer running through the neighborhood. We just feel like R5 would be better for where we live than R1. It would just get us a few less houses, a few less leeways, a little less traffic. And my biggest concern is on the corner of Arrow, when we pull out of our driveway, we almost get hit daily because of the cars turning the corner so darn quickly. I don't believe that it's ever monitored or rarely monitored for the big trucks that go by and how fast they go by and how dangerous it is. We've watched someone, my husband and I literally watched someone drive into the back of a semi that was parked right there. And so we saw one person just die in our front yard pretty much. And we just think it's a dangerous location to have way too many more people. But we welcome whoever comes. We really do. We just have a lot of concerns because I didn't plan on having cancer. I don't have cancer in my family. My bedroom was right outside the high voltage, and I got cancer. My neighbor died of cancer, and everyone's going to have cancer. But I feel like it's a dangerous place to have a lot more little lives or big lives. So if R5 gets you less lives, then I think it's a really good place for this place. And I've been there 26 years. And I would beg all of you to consider it, because it's not just my backyard, it's also a lot of people being affected that aren't willing to show up. I talked to people about the low water pressure. It's been kind of a nuisance, like it's not just my house, it's other people. And, you know, I know we have Monday, Wednesday, and Friday or whatever, and we follow all the rules, and we have the best yard in the town, but we can't take a shower without, you know, and get our soap out. Anyway, I really think R5 would be an incredible thing for that area. That's all. I'm sorry, it's a lot.
Thank you, Mrs. Cupford. That wasn't too long of a story at all. Is there anyone else that wants to come forward?
I'm with her. I'm going to show you our yard.
Nice.
This is this year in October when fall's coming. We take pride in the area of the neighborhood.
I'm familiar with it.
Pardon me?
I am familiar with it.
When we moved in here 26 years ago, there was inadequate infrastructure. My name's Clint Cupper, by the way. There was inadequate water, inadequate power, inadequate everything. We had underground power, so there was no problem there. The first year was pretty good. There wasn't a lot of traffic on Drew Bay. But it changed pretty quickly after the first year. We've been on water restrictions for 26 years, and the whole point of that to me is conserve, to sell more building permits, or so that we have enough water. This recently happened. The last meeting that I came to here, I wasn't going to come back because it didn't seem to help. They were going to rezone the east side of my house to 5-acre lots, and we brought up the point of water and traffic and the drainage, and what comes down Drew Bay is mud and water on both sides of Drew Bay, and it piles up. I spend every winter digging it out because there's no drainage down Drew Bay, and if I don't do it, it will flood my basement. That needs to be fixed. When the cops radar Drew Bay, they get the 55 and 60 mile an hour, but they don't get the 100 mile an hour that drag race Drew Bay 5 miles every Saturday and Sunday. Those vehicles would be impounded for sure. There's animals and kids that play through there. We want growth. When they put the 5-acre lots across the street, they dug up my entire yard to provide gas for those across the street. It's taken me 6 years to rebuild the yard and build up the topsoil and get the grass seed reseeded so that it looks as you saw. 19 homes, if you do the 1-acre homes, would be at least 2 vehicles per home. That's another 40 vehicles coming out on Drew Bay. Now, I brought this up the last time, and I said in the meeting, the council heard it, you can look up the notes, that there's going to be some deaths on Drew Bay. They got to slow the traffic down, whether you do speed bumps or stop signs or stop lights or something. But because it's legal for the semis to park on Drew Bay, they park in such a way, people come out on Arrow and they can't see. They also have the fun fact that all the off-road vehicles with no mufflers can race up and down the street. Nobody can see when they're coming out, and there's near misses every day. I planted those boulders you saw in my yard. They're 4,000 pounds each, and they've been hit many times because people are coming in so fast they can't navigate the turn. The one dude took out his transmission and leaked oil all over my yard, the sidewalk. When they towed him off, I had to clean it up. We kept bringing up the semis parking there, and it's totally legal. One semi parks next to my house and runs his reefer unit for 2 days straight. For 2 full days. I finally called the cops, and for a noise ordinance, they made him move it. He parked on the other side of the street. I don't know why people run into the back of parked semis, but I think it's because the traffic's moving so fast people can't navigate. The one dude hit, and he almost died. and about 6 months later, the other dude hit and died. You're going to add another 40 cars coming out on that. It's posted 35 miles an hour. They're doing in excess of 65 miles an hour. I do 35 miles an hour because I set my cruise control, and they're bolting around me like I'm standing still. We have to slow the traffic down on Drew Bay, please. The drainage is inadequate. I would just hope that you take a look at it. And they brought the Boys Ranch across the street, and it didn't bring the desirables that we wanted. Since that happened and since that development came in, my house has been shot twice. My mailbox has been ran over twice. My fence has been ran over as a hit and run. They left. The rocks have been hit several times. My car window got smashed out. I call the cops, they're like, what do you want us to do? And I'm like, I don't know, what do you do? I would just ask that if you make it 5 acres, I think it limits the undesirables. The cost of the 5 acres would bring it up a level. It's just, it's not in our best interest to have those like that. Like my wife said, the water has been a problem. Everybody punches another well. Our pressure is barely enough to get the sprinklers to go on. I hand water most of it. The high voltage, again, when they brought the high voltage right through my yard, my wife ended up with breast cancer. It's a known fact that the inductance that comes off of those high voltage wires causes cows not to produce milk, and they don't produce calves, and it causes 30 years. So I'm an electrician by trade. When you bring in more power, you're going to have more of the same. The semis that come down Drew Bay, I don't know if you're aware of that, but it is zoned for 18 to 20 tons. And again, I've been around the concrete and the gravel and whatever, they're easily over 20 tons. When they're coming up to the golf course and back, they use their Jake's brake all the time. It's really hasn't been a good experience. Please consider it as they try to rezone this for one single 1 acre lots. It's not in our best interest. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cookford.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that wants to come forward in the public hearing to address this item? If not, we'll close the public hearing. Is the applicant here? Would you guys like some time to speak? Please come forward. That's fine. If you both sign your names on the roster and
We're Brandon and Jenny Nay, and the Cupfords do have the best yard in the neighborhood. We live right down from them. And this property that we are buying from the Tylers to put our house on, the only reason we're zoning it as R1 is because where the street goes into Conifer, there's 3 houses on the one side, and each of those houses own, how much is it for each of you?
Well, 7 acres total,
7
right?
acres total, so we're dividing that in half and we're taking the other side for one house. So we're not putting 19 houses, we're putting one house that will have 4 acres. So we can't keep the R5 zoning because it's under 5 acres. It seems logical to me that you would put an R1 right there because you're surrounded by R5. That seems like an easy way to build the plan.
Kind of a buffer zone, right? As the growth goes out, the lots get a little bit bigger. So, I do want to point out, currently the general plan has it going to the size of lots that are in our subdivision. We're trying to keep the bigger lots. We're trying.
Bigger lots. And I think the brochure that said that you were going to turn it into 19 more acre lots. Is that not right?
No, that's
Hey,
just what the
but just-
zoning is.
could we just keep it commented here?
Sorry, yes,
from
so
going back
it's
and forth.
zoned, we have to go to that zoning because we can't keep R5 zoning because it's under 5
But you're
acres.
the one you want to do is 4.
What we are doing is 4.68.
3.64.
Oh, 3 point, sorry, I thought it was,
So
maybe
three-
theirs is 4.68.
The piece that we'll be building our house on is 3.64. There's no zoning between RR1 and RR5. So we have to go down to RR1 to build our house on this lot. So, and that, we came in and talked with Mr. Page's predecessor and Paul Hansen, the city engineer, prior to this to get their recommendations on how to go forth with this. So that was what they said we would have to do. So that's why we're here doing this. Do you have
So
any-
we're not trying to change it from what the general plan is to lower. The general plan is at R118.
17,
The
18, or
future one. Right now, it's at R5. We're wanting it at R1.
Okay,
I don't know if that's
still different.
where the confusion came from, was because the future one is smaller, because that fits what the neighborhood is. We're just wanting one R1. We love where we live. We want a little bit bigger lot so that we have some space, and we don't want to live on the west side. And there really isn't anything on the east side that's an R1. We don't want R5 because we don't need 5 acres. And I just feel like that is a good place for you to have that buffer between the 5 acres and the medium density residential. I can't address the Drew Bay issues with the semis. I don't think we don't own a semi. We won't be driving that way. The access to it will be from Conifer, so there won't be any access from Drew Bay.
So that's it.
Okay,
That's what we want to do. Do you have any questions for us?
thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Nay. Any questions for the applicants from commissioners?
So what's going to be done with the rest of the property? So you're taking that portion. What's the rest of it going to be?
That's theirs still. There's 3
So
lots there, and we're
Conifer
only
cuts.
we're dividing one, but we're zoning it all.
So Conifer ends at the current neighborhood, and then Conifer turns into a private lane. And there's 3 families that live on that street. Joe Tyler, who's here, he's the one that we're buying
That
the
section
east
from.
side of his property on Conifer from.
So the others are keeping theirs as is.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Nay.
Chairman, I think I heard that when they build their house, that the entire property will be occupied under current zoning. Is that what I heard? There will be 3 houses there on that 19 acres?
There's the three that are there now, and then they're going to build theirs.
So I just want to make sure that, if, apparently
Yes,
I
please.
misunderstood, so let's make sure we get it right.
So when I came in and talked to Paul Hansen, he had suggested if the other 2 families wanted to include their 2 pieces of property in the rezone, that they could. That's where the 19 acres come from. The piece that we're buying is just 3.64. So it's just a portion of Joe Tyler's property. Does that answer your question?
Well, I think we're saying the same thing. It would be so the existing owners could potentially subdivide in the future, but that's not the current plan.
Their current plan is not to subdivide. They just joined in the rezone.
Okay, so I think, Commission, you understand that if it's rezoned to 1 acre lots, then that's what could be done with it, even though that's not the current intention, and that's okay. That's just how zoning works. But I think I understand the proposal better, and sorry if I'm just getting up to speed.
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay, any further discussion on this one? So I'm 100% confused. We still have to, this still does not meet up with the land use map, so we can't do anything, right? Okay, good. My head got too full of numbers and shut down. So, anyone want to make a motion on this?
Chair, I move that we table this until we have a land use map change.
Change or an application for a change?
Change or an application for the change. It'll come together,
Yes.
right? Okay. Motion to table until we get a land use map application change by Commissioner Anderson,
I'll second.
seconded by Commissioner Hammer. Any discussion on that motion? If not, we'll go ahead and vote on that. Commissioner Hammer,
Aye.
Commissioner Proctor,
Aye.
Commissioner Sloan,
Aye.
Commissioner Hamilton,
Aye.
Commissioner Gossett,
Aye.
Commissioner Anderson.
Aye.
Chair also votes aye. That item is tabled until we get land use map applications in process.
Thank you, Chairman, and I just thought I would note for the record that the agenda has been amended to remove the vote anyway, so your motion to table is just a good complement to the revised agenda.
Well moved. Thank you, Mr. Baker. Next on the agenda, the review and decision on a site plan design review located at 389 East Vine for the conditional use permit we just approved earlier in the meeting. Mr. Agard.
Thank you, Commissioners. So this is the follow-up application to the CUP. This is the landscape plan that was provided by the applicant. The site plan, as I mentioned before, is fairly straightforward. They can only do so much with the property due to the size of it. The property does propose that the units front onto 4th Street. There is on that side a space able to park 2 vehicles and a 1-car garage, so there'll be 3 parking spaces per unit. The ordinance requirement for multifamily parking is 2 spaces per unit plus 1 space for every 4 units for guest parking. This project provides 9 parking spaces, so it's within the requirements for parking. The setbacks are as per code. You'll notice that to the west side of the building, there is some hatched area. This will be a private open space for each individual townhome. The remaining landscaping around the structure will be common area maintained by an HOA development. The landscape plan does propose a little bit of sod on the northeast corner there where you have a swing set and some benches for amenities. The rest of the landscaping will be cobble with some trees irrigated by drip systems. There is a stormwater retention basin on the northwest corner that will collect stormwater from the rooftops of the building, and it will then be permitted to either evaporate or percolate into the soils. The landscaping plan and the building site plan has been reviewed against the criteria in the Tooele City multifamily residential design guidelines, and the development as proposed does meet or exceed the minimum requirements for that. Yes, it is tight, but it does meet those requirements. This is the building that's proposed. The applicant has satisfied the requirement on street-facing and front facades to have 40% brick or stone. They also have satisfied the requirements for vertical and horizontal articulation. The roof line is pitched, and so it does not violate the 50-foot linear roof line requirement without a variation. This is the rear facade. It is primarily vinyl with significant glass for the windows and for the doors. And then this is the side facade. The other side looks about the same. Going back to the landscape plan, there is a requirement for fencing where the project is adjacent to single-family residential. Therefore, the applicant will be installing vinyl fencing with masonry piers on the west side and the south side. There is no requirement for fencing on the north side, so fencing will be installed as part of this project. Staff is recommending approval of the application with the addition of 1 condition, and that relates to the side facades. By ordinance, you can only have 1 facade covered by a maximum of 70% of the same material. And so they would need to have at least 30% of a different material. It doesn't have to be masonry, it can be any other material. So staff recommends that they perhaps do a wainscot along those side facades just to meet that 30% requirement. Otherwise, the application has been reviewed and scrutinized according to our design standards, and I believe it meets or exceeds those other than this 1 condition. We're recommending approval with that condition.
Thank you, Mr. Agard. Any questions for staff on this agenda item? If not, I will entertain a motion on this site plan design review.
Mr. Chair, I
Hamilton.
move we approve the site plan design review request by Halim Kurti for the purpose of constructing 3 townhomes units at 389 East Vine Street, application number 2024022, Based on the findings and subject to the conditions listed in the staff report dated February 6, 2025, with the added condition that the side facades have a different exterior building material added, such as a wainscot composed of anything different than the proposed vinyl siding, comprising 30% of each individual facade.
There's a motion to approve by Commissioner Hamilton. The chair will second that. Any discussion on the motion? If not, we'll take it to a vote. Commissioner Hammer?
Aye.
Commissioner Proctor?
Aye.
Commissioner Sloan?
Aye.
Commissioner Hamilton?
Aye.
Commissioner Gossett?
Aye.
Commissioner Anderson?
Aye.
Chair also votes aye. That is approved 7-0. Next on the agenda, review and decision on the Deseret Peak Seminary preliminary subdivision plan request by Mike Davy for .85 acres of property located at 2200 North Barra Boulevard.
Thank
Mr.
you,
Agar.
Commissioners. The subject property is highlighted in red on the aerial photograph. It sits at the northwest corner of the intersection of Barra Boulevard and 2200 North. Properties to the west and north of the subject property are vacant, undeveloped ground. We have single-family residential located to the south. And then, as you can see, the Deseret Peak High School is being constructed located to the east. Property is currently zoned R18 with RR5 to the north and east and some R18 zoning on the south. The preliminary subdivision plan basically plats one lot. So it's kind of a misnomer to have a subdivision consisting of one lot, but basically it's taking this .85 acre piece of land and detaching it from the overall larger surrounding piece and creating a platted lot. It requires a preliminary plan approval because there is road dedication involved in the subdivision plat. So you'll note that the hatch pattern located to the east, that is a portion of the property that will be dedicated to Tooele City for the construction of Barra Boulevard. And the church will be constructing their frontage as well as the asphalt necessary to complete the portion of the roadway that the high school is not going to be constructing. So at that frontage, Barra Boulevard should be fully completed. That is the proposed preliminary subdivision plan. We are recommending approval with the basic conditions listed in your report. If you have any questions, happy to answer them for you.
Thank you, Andrew. Any questions for staff on this agenda item? If not, I'll entertain a motion on this preliminary subdivision plan.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion.
Commissioner Proctor?
I move we approve the preliminary subdivision plan request by Mike Davy representing BHD Architects for the single lot Deseret Peak subdivision application number 2024002 based on the findings and subject to conditions listed in the staff report dated February 5th, 2025.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Proctor. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Hamilton. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we'll take it to a vote. Commissioner Hammer?
Aye.
Commissioner Proctor?
Aye.
Commissioner Sloan?
Aye.
Commissioner Hamilton?
Aye.
Commissioner Gossett?
Aye.
Commissioner Anderson?
Aye.
Chair also votes aye. That preliminary subdivision plan is approved 7-0. Next on the agenda, a review and decision on a site plan design review request by Dave Irving, representing Building Dynamics, to approve the Lexington Townhomes Phase 3 located at 625 West, 1200 North in the MR16 multifamily residential zoning district. Mr. Page.
Thank you, Chair. So this is located just off of north of SR 112, which is a kind of a continuation of 1000 North. You can access it off of Franks Drive, which turns into 400 West. It's 1.75 acres, so it's zoned MR16. The site is highlighted in red. This is the zoning of the area. And this is the landscape plan. And this is the site plan. And here are the architectural renderings. There's 3 units for the front and 3 units for the rear elevation. And then we have the side and then the elevations for the 4 unit, the front, the rear, and the side. And staff has reviewed this application and it complies with all the requirements for the site plan for the MR16 zone.
Thank you, Mr. Page. Any questions from the commission for staff? Commissioner Sloan?
Is it fair to say that these are substantially, virtually identical to the previous phases they've constructed directly next door?
Yes, they are.
If there are no further questions, I'll entertain a motion on this site plan design review.
Mr. Chair, I move we approve the site plan design review request by Harold Irving for Phase 2 of Lexington Townhomes to be located at 625 West, 1200 North, application number P22-1191, based on the findings and subject to the conditions listed in the staff report dated April 5th, 2023.
There's a motion to approve from Commissioner Hammer. Or Commissioner Hamilton. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Proctor. Any discussion on the motion? If not, we'll take it to a vote. Commissioner Hammer?
Aye.
Commissioner Proctor?
Aye.
Commissioner Sloan?
Aye.
Commissioner Hamilton?
Aye.
Commissioner Gossett?
Aye.
Commissioner Anderson?
Aye.
Chair also votes aye. That site plan is approved 7-0. Next on the agenda are city council reports. Councilman Hanson.
I'll probably just do that from here. I don't really have anything to talk about from your last meeting, but you guys did really well tonight. I was impressed with the way your discussion and the things that are going on in our city and the way you approach that to protect our city, so I appreciate that. One thing from our meeting, I got to tell you that I'm excited that Jack in the Box is going to be up the street from my house and I get tacos from there. So. But if you have any questions for me.
All the places you get tacos.
That's right.
That's
yeah.
the one you're excited
That's what I'm most excited about.
Come on, Ed, come downtown. There are better tacos there.
Yeah, I know. Oh, I got to eat them too, but Jack in the Box, I like their tacos, so what can I say?
I'll second
It's
that.
not replacing, it's supplementing.
That's right, yeah, in addition.
Thank you, Councilmember Hanson. Any questions for him? If not, next on the agenda is the review and decision on the minutes from the meeting held on January 22nd, 2025.
I move we approve those minutes.
Commissioner Hammer moves we approve the minutes. Is there a second?
Actually, I have a correction to the minutes.
Okay, what you got?
My spelling.
Did you give that to her already?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Okay. I'll second Commissioner Hammer's motion to approve the minutes with Commissioner Anderson's name spelled right. Any discussion on that? If not, Commissioner Hammer, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Proctor?
Aye.
Commissioner Sloan?
Aye.
Commissioner Hamilton?
Aye.
Commissioner Gossett?
Aye.
Commissioner Anderson?
Aye.
Chair also votes aye. Those minutes are approved 7-0. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
We are adjourned. Thank you.